Welcome to another edition of Let's Play TNA 2016. Yes, that's right, this series is continuing as things are heating up between the tag team champions and the former champion, the tag team champions Beer Money and the former champions Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards, the Wolves. If you remember last week, Eddie and Davey, or was it 2 weeks ago? It was 2 weeks ago, at this point, at One Night Only Legacy, when not only did we see Rey Mysterio Jr. win the TNA World Heavyweight title, but also we saw new TNA Tag Team Champions crowned as Beer Money Incorporated defeated the Wolves for the tag titles, and then we saw the Wolves attack Beer Money. And then fast forward to Impact Wrestling this last week, and Beer Money wanted the Wolves in the ring, and they wanted a fight. Well, they got one at the end of the show as Bobby Roode was attacked by both members of the Wolves, who from the mouth of Mick Foley were not supposed to be at Impact last week, but ended up showing up in the last segment of the show to attack one half of Beer Money, only to be ran off by James Storm, and the confrontation ended Impact last week between Beer Money and the Wolves. But take a look at what's going to start this week's episode of Impact Wrestling. Either way, we start off with the pre-show match between Alex Reynolds and Brent Albright, and Brent Albright comes up short against one half of the Beaver Boys in tonight's pre-show match. But either way, now we move and we jump right into the opening segment of the show, and just in true TNA fashion, the show kicks off with Josh Matthews mentioning that this is a recording from earlier today, caught by TNA cameras. Caught by fans' cameras recording on their phone, and they sent it in. Because why would the cameras be rolling? You know, why would the cameras be rolling before the show? They wouldn't catch this. The fans would. And it was a brawl. It's a brawl between Eddie, Davey, James Storm, and Bobby Roode backstage in the parking lot, and all four men start brawling all over the backstage area, and a whole host of road agents and staff have to pull them apart. The tension is at an all-time high between Beer Money and the Wolves, and that's how we kick off tonight's episode of Impact with a bang. And speaking of tonight's episode of Impact, the first of many new talents to the TNA roster, El Ligero, is here and challenges Tigre Uno for the X Division Championship, but Tigre Uno once again pels somebody with the saber-tooth splash and retains his X Division title for the 12th time. He's had 12 defenses, and also, Tigre is 2 months away from holding the X Division title for a year. Oh, I didn't actually realize that he's not a babyface. But either way, we move back to the broadcast position following the first match, and it's announced from the office of Mick Foley that Ethan Carter III will team up with Beer Money against Bram and the Wolves in tonight's main event on Impact. And now we move to the next match as DJZ goes up against Mike Bennett, and DJZ gets the victory against Bennett in tonight's match. This, much like the matches from previous weeks with Micah and Lashley and Tyrus and Drew Galloway, was just a match to get people of the mid-card persuasion on the show and get them some TV time, because right now they're not doing anything. So getting him a TV victory does mean something. Because who knows? It may be the start of something new for them. Or something good for them. Who knows? And now, just suddenly, out of the corner of the cameraman's eye, he pans over to the right side of the arena, and he sees somebody walking in. And it is Steve Corino. Steve Corino is entering the Lina Rink Arena and is on Impact Wrestling. But all he does is take a seat in the crowd. Front row, of course. Sits down and watches the show. That's it. Then they pan away, but not before both Pope and Josh question, why is Steve Corino on Impact Wrestling? What business does he have here in TNA? And Pope just brings up, Josh, it just looks like he's scouting or watching. I don't know, but it just looks like he's watching. I'm just going to say this, even though the rating didn't get good, I'm sticking with it, and I'm going to go through with what I have planned for Steve Corino. Because I know the segment that I had him do is not going to be counted towards the final rating, unless they changed the rating tabulation from TEW 2013 to TEW 2014. But either way, now we slide backstage to something where we know what's going on, and that's Rob Echoes trying to reason with Ethan Carter III and basically tell him to try and iron out the issues between him and Brenham to keep what could have been the most dominant trio in TNA together. And this way we have a renewed focus. And this way we could be better. And we can make this company better. You know what, Rob? I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. Because Bram crossed the line when he attacked me. But if he's willing to let bygones be bygones, maybe I am too. Rob Echoes then leaves with a little bit of a smirk on his face, but Ethan Carter, as Rob is leaving, Ethan Carter also has a smirk, and you hear him say under his breath, "You're right." Now we move to the first of two knockouts matches tonight, and that's Marty Bell against Brooke Tessmacher, and Brooke gets the victory. This is, for the second week in a row, Brooke gets a win on Impact Wrestling, and it looks like maybe Brooke's building a little bit of momentum. A new, fresh challenger could be in the running for Gail Kim's Knockouts title. Now we move to another match much similar to the one from earlier tonight with Mike Bennett and DJZ. It's Drew Galloway against Jesse Goddards, and Drew Galloway gets the victory over Jesse Goddards. I'm pleased to see that Jesse and Drew have good chemistry, so I maybe keep that in mind for the future. But either way, Drew Galloway gets the win and continues to build. Actually, no, he lost last week. So he's starting off fresh with some momentum as we head towards the next pay-per-view, which, by the way, is one night only. Lockdown. That's right, the next pay-per-view is Lockdown. But one little change. The only cage match at Lockdown now is the main event, which is Lethal Lockdown. Because then the show gets to keep its name, and I don't have to do the idiotic characteristic of the show, putting every match in a steel cage. Because then that waters down the concept of a cage match, and, well, makes it where you may have to rush to hype feuds, instead of building feuds slow and only having one match with maybe 3 feuds involved in it. But either way, we're 3 weeks away from Lockdown. We still got time, and we got plenty of time to build things up until then, and that starts right here with The Prodigy, as The Prodigy talks about how his match against Mike Bennett was a #1 contender match for the TNA Heritage title. But it's always been veterans like Anderson and Eric Young holding back people like me. Because Anderson is from that company up north. Eric has been here God knows how long. He's been here too long. And because people like Anderson come into TNA, that makes people like Eric bitch, moan, and complain about lost opportunities to people like Anderson, like Jeff Hardy, like Matt Hardy, Kurt Angle. The list goes on and on and on. But you know the one thing that Kurt Angle doesn't have, that Eric Young doesn't have, that Anderson doesn't have, that the Hardys don't have, that Mike Bennett doesn't have, that is, that they weren't born to do this. I started when I was 15 years old. And I am as good as ever. I am born to be champion. Anderson, you've done good with that title. But it looks terrible around your waist. And we shouldn't be honoring that legacy of TNA. We should be honoring my legacy in TNA, the legacy that I keep building up, and will continue to build tonight when this poor sap comes to the ring and falls victim to the Prodigy, just like everybody else has, and just like Eric Young and Anderson will. So whoever back there wants to be the next statistic in the streak of the Prodigy, come on down and let's get this over with. The man who accepts the Prodigy's challenge is Cheeseburger. And yes, there's a reason why I picked to debut Cheeseburger here. Partially because he was a local talent, and I don't actually employ him. But the other reason is because I know Ring of Honor is based in the tri-state area, Pennsylvania to be specific, and at least Cheeseburger may have some fans and get at least a little bit of a reaction here, as opposed to maybe making him debut at the Impact Zone. You know? I gotta say that Cheeseburger is or would be a very good hand as far as being a jobber, but anything other than that, I mean, unless he can improve, I don't really see a future for him in TNA. because I don't really need jobbers right now, so sorry, cheeseburger. Now we move backstage after the streak continues, with Rob Echoes entering Bram's locker room and encouraging Bram to bury the hatchet with Ethan Carter and bring the trio back together, because there's power in numbers. And Bram says, Rob, what don't you get? EC3 doesn't give a damn about us. He was using us to get to the title, and he failed. Yes, it might have been because of me, but even without me, he would have failed. Because the thing that you don't understand and that you can't realize is we don't need him. We're better off without him. You have always had somebody that had your back and was always by your side. Whether it was Jesse Goddard's, whether it was Big Rob, it doesn't matter. But you're not Robbie E anymore. Show these people why Rob Echoes isn't Robbie E. And prove why you belong in TNA and belong on your own. Prove your critics wrong, Rob. Because I'll never forgive that son of a bitch. And now we move to the second of 2 knockouts matches tonight, with Awesome Kong going up against Jade. That's right, both members of the Dollhouse were in action tonight, and Taryn Terrell was on the sidelines, cheering on her girls. Well, I guess there wasn't really much to say, but I wish I kind of had a little bit more time. Because I kind of accidentally hit the next button, but before I get to the McFoley promo, it was basically just to get people who aren't usually on television on TV. And you might say, oh, that's stupid because they're not going to get a reaction. Yeah, because I don't use them on TV, that's why they're not getting a reaction in the first place, so if I start using them a little more, maybe they'll get a little bit more of a reaction. And plus, Kong lost. Jade won. So Jade got an upset victory over Awesome Kong. Maybe, just maybe, a future match could see Jade against Brooke, where the winner faces Gale. Who knows? But either way, when we come back from a commercial break, you hear Mick Foley's theme song play, and Mick Foley makes his way out to the ring. And he talks about something. He talks about something that he says that he holds dear. Wow. Just to say, the segment deserved better announcing, and the announcing job by Josh Matthews was weak. It got an 87 with those negatives. I can't imagine how good it would have gotten with no negatives. But either way, Mick Foley comes out to the ring, and he talks about a new talent initiative. He says that there's so much talent on the independent scene, that there's so much talent out there, and there are so few spots. So, what TNA management and Mick Foley have come up with is the new talent initiative, where 2 people every week for the oncoming weeks will get an opportunity to earn a contract with TNA Wrestling. If they can beat 2 contractually TNA contracted wrestlers, I'm not saying that they'd get the TNA contracts from the wrestlers, meaning they basically take the wrestler's spot. I'm saying that the unemployed workers, if they do good, and if they win, they get a contract. And for this week, Mick Foley introduces the 2 lucky participants, and that is Caprice Coleman and Dalton Castle. And they go up against Milk Chocolate And there is one simple reason why Milk Chocolate won. And by the way, I actually like how good, well, I'll just say this. Caprice Coleman got a 38, and that was the highest in-ring performance for the match. Dalton Castle got a 32, Brandon Watts got a 31, and Randy Summers got a 31. Normally, if somebody unemployed does better than my employed wrestlers, I sign them. So, with that being the case, you could see Caprice Coleman on the roster very soon. Dalton Castle, you do have me on a technicality that he beat them by 1, but I don't know if I have the need to add 2 people. But either way, the reason why I had Milk Chocolate win is for one reason and one reason only. And this is the reason. Because, are you kidding me? Seriously? Josh Matthews did bad in this segment too, and it involved Randy Summers and Brandon Watts? Are you kidding me? Oh, yeah, geez. I mean, are you kidding me? Jiminy Christmas. I may have to find a new announcer. But either way, this was the first time Watts and Summers won on Impact. So they were celebrating like Kurt Angle when he won the European title. And Mick Foley came in the ring, and see, Milk Chocolate's gimmick on the Indies used to be, I don't know if it still is now, that Summers would sing to the ring. I'm not sure if they both would, but I know Summers would, because I've seen some of their matches and some of their work. That's what I would have them do here. And I would try and get them to have Mick sing along with them. And after a little bit of convincing, Mick would sing along with them. And you'd have Brandon, Randy, and Mick all singing God only knows what song. I don't know, like, whatever song you would think whatever song you would find hilarious if you heard Mick Foley singing. There you go. But this is also part of character development, and this is also part of a little push that I have planned for Milk Chocolate in the coming weeks. Milk Chocolate for the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. And now we move to the main event with the babyface team of Beer Money and Ethan Carter versus Bram and the Wolves, and the match ends in a draw. Following a double countout, specifically a double countout between Bobby Roode. Well, basically the ref lost control and all 6 men were fighting all over the arena. And even after the bell rang and 23 minutes of the match ended, the brawl continued. As all 3 men fought all throughout the arena, with Beer Money, with Bobby Roode and Davey Richards ending up backstage, Eddie Edwards and James Storm ending up in the crowd, and Bram and Ethan Carter also ending up backstage. And the show goes to black with Josh Matthews saying, "Pandemonium ends this week's episode of Impact." Pope, what the hell's gonna happen next week? These 6 guys hate each other. Don't miss next week's Impact. I am definitely going to turn off that because 2 matches should have been enough. 2 matches should have been enough. And you could say, oh, what about the feud? What about feuds or whatever? Well, right now, Gail doesn't have a feud. But the feud between the Beautiful People and the Dollhouse was on Explosion this past week, and also, I don't know, Velvet Sky, Madison Rain, that's 2. Jade, Taryn Terrell, and Marty Bell. That's 3. Right now it's 2-on-3, so either it's going to be a 2-on-3 handicap match at the pay-per-view, or somebody is going to help Taryn Terrell, Velvet, and Madison. But who? Sorry, I had to throw in a New Day reference here, even on TNA. But either way, in the end, we finished with a 66 final rating and increased our popularity in 11 regions. I think the game likes the direction I'm taking TNA and wants to see where I go from here. I'm just hoping you guys also want to see where I go from here with TNA, because things are just getting started with Tigre Uno as the X Division champion, because I have actually a plan in mind for Tigre Uno, and also the tension is continuing to build between Beer Money, Ethan Carter, Bram, and the Wolves. And also with the new talent initiative, who will show up next week on TNA Impact, as we had El Ligero, Dalton Castle, Caprice Coleman, and Cheeseburger on this week's episode of Impact. Also, the debut of Steve Corino. And I can promise you this, Corino will be on Impact next week. But how? Just in the crowd again? You'll have to tune in to find out. But let me know down in the comment section below what you thought of this show, and what you're thinking about as far as my current direction for TNA and top talent, and also the new talent initiative, and who you'd like to see come in for one night or even under contract with TNA Wrestling. Let me know all that and more down in the comment section, because as always, feedback is more than welcomed and appreciated, and I love to hear from you on what you think. But if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Till next time, maybe I'll have a different outro. You'll have to watch the video to find out. But till next time, later.